Salvete discipuli et discipuli. Today we are going to check your last section of translation for Cincinnatus. So you'll be checking and correcting as we go, and then you'll answer these reflection questions at the end. Remember that you translated, but you also identified the cases of the blue pronouns and the possessive adjectives. And if it was an adjective, you identified the noun it was describing. So I'll do that as we go as well. So when we read, remember that I like to read by complete thoughts or clauses. So I'll stop with the punctuation, but also, even more importantly than the punctuation, when I come to signals within the Latin itself, such as a verb. And then I'll translate. Ubi ad erpim accedit. Okay, so I have a verb and I have a comma. Pretty good idea that I've got a full-ish thought here. Ubi can be when or where. Ad plus the accusative. We have an object of the preposition for the accusative here. Means to, toward, or near. So when or where, near or toward the city, accedit, he, she, or it approaches. So there's my subject. So when he is approaching, let's say he, because logical guess since it was Cincinnatus, near the city. That sounds the best in English. A patribus in senatum fertur. So as I read across, I noticed that I had two prepositional phrases, one with the a and the ablative, and one with in and the accusative, which should say into or onto. So no subject, that takes me to the verb at the end, fertur. So he again, which would make sense. When he is approaching near the city, he. Pharaoh means to bring. This is passive, so he is brought by the fathers, not from the fathers. And remember, the fathers are just the senators. It was a term of respect for them. So those two words are used interchangeably in this story, into the Senate itself. Because remember, they grabbed him from his field. AE, so this is blue. It's one of your pronouns, isaed. And there are two possible cases it could be. It could be AE, the dative row. So any of the dative singulars, or it could be nominative plural, that second declension masculine nominative plural ending. So it could either be to him or for him, or it could be they. I think either works here when you translate, because if we read across AE tu solus inquiunt, there are quotes, and our subject here is a third person plural, or they. So either it's stressing the subject or it's saying to him, which also makes sense because they say to him, meaning Cincinnatus. That's how I want to translate it. So they say to him, tu solus erpim servare potes. You alone, the city, direct object, to save, infinitive, are able. And this S confirms the to is the subject, even though I already knew to was nominative. But you always want to confirm with the verb. So you alone are able to save the city, or can save the city. They say to him, itaque te dictatorem facimus. Now, immediately I noticed that te and dictatorem are right next to each other. So I have the words you and dictator. They can both be accusative, to be te. It's either accusative or ablative, and dictatorem is definitely accusative. So they're not the subject, but something about him being dictator, right? They're talking to Cincinnatus, facimus, we are making. So itaque, we are making you dictator, te dictatorem. When I go to this next sentence, I'm hit immediately with what looks like a part of a verb, duke, like duco, ducere, so lead. This is actually what's called an imperative. It's a command. So we're going to see a couple of those in the story, just like we did in the last one. And all it is the infinitive form shortened down to the root when you're trying to command one person. So duc, lead, exercitum in hostes urbimque, and I'm going to stop there because que means and it'll be translated in front of city. So duc exercitum in hostes, lead what? This accusative army, the army in plus the accusative hostes into the enemies. Now I'm going to go back to the city. Urbimque, that's also accusative, a magno periculo, ablative prepositional phrase, serva, another imperative order, right? I've got that infinitive re chopped off, it's just the stem. And que, save, what am I saving? The city from great danger. All right, so basically they took him out of the fields, right? They brought him, and we read that they want to make him a dictator. Remember, dictators were instituted for a term of 6 months or less in complete emergency situations. It was an actual political office, and the problem became that some of these dictators didn't want to set power down. That is not going to be an issue with Cincinnatus, as we will soon see. So they put him in charge so that he can just make unilateral, just him decisions, which they feel like will be wise since he has been so skilled in the military before. Postridie Cincinnatus exercitum in hostes ducit. So I need this whole sentence. The next day, Cincinnatus, subject, the army, exercitum, accusative, so it's the direct object, into the enemies, another accusative prepositional phrase, he leads. So Cincinnatus is the he, that's good, verb confirmed, he was the subject. Let's put it all together. The next day, Cincinnatus leads, what does he lead? The army into the enemies. In media nocte ad castra hostium occidit. So again, I'm going to take the whole sentence. In media nocte, in the middle of the night. That's just a prepositional phrase. I've got another one, ad castra. This is neuter accusative plural, so to the camps, hostium. This is a third declension genitive, so to the camps of the enemies, he approaches. So a lot of getting to the verb and then seeing our subject there. Don't rush to the verb though. Read it across just like I am and get a sense of it first. If you're always picking and hunting for the verb, you'll never really be reading the Latin. Just let the verb confirm for you who the subject is when you get there. Dende milites ubet hostes, circumvenire magnos que clamores tolere. So again, full sentence. Milites, that's either, milites is either nominative or accusative, so subject or object. You bet, with the T. So they're not the subject, because otherwise we'd have to have an NT for the plural they. So he orders the soldiers to do something. Hostes needs to be a nominative or accusative again, we'll see. He orders the soldiers. It makes sense that the soldiers are going to be the subject of some other verb, whereas the hostes would be the accusative, like the soldiers to do something to those enemies. So let's keep reading. Circumvenire. He orders the soldiers to surround the enemies. Okay. Magnosque and... so I could have stopped there actually before. Now I'm just noticing that que. So that's why it's always good to do a couple of read-throughs, because then you notice things each time. And so he orders the soldiers to surround the enemy, and magnos clamores, definitely accusative, os can't be anything else, tolere, to raise great shouts. So he orders his men to surround the enemy and start shouting, acting crazy. Et ab hostibus et ab Romanis clamores adiunter. Again, another full thought. Et, when I was first reading, I thought, oh, both and. Because when you see two ets, it's not and. In English, it translates better to say both and. So both ab hostibus, buyer from the enemies, and buyer from the Romans, clamores audiuntur. So this is either subject or direct object. The verb has an nt, so it's probably the subject. This is also passive, unter. So both from the enemies and from the Romans, shouts are heard. Audite, this is just a plural command. So if chopping off that re gets you a singular imperative command, then adding a te or changing the re to a te makes it a plural command. Audite milites. So listen, soldiers. Consul inquit, the consul says. Illos clamores, those shouts, accusative, right? Cincinnatus auxilium fert. Cincinnatus brings aid, right? Making the aid the direct object. Nunc hostes oppugnare possumus. Now, the enemies to attack possumus, we are able. So now we are able to attack the enemies. Romani hostes undeque oppugnant. The Romans, subject, the Romans attack the enemies everywhere or on all sides, undeque. Ili teriti sunt, they or those men, because it's masculine plural, are terrified. So those are terrified, you could say. Et and mox se dedunt. And soon they give themselves over. Like they give up, basically. They surrender. Arma sua deponunt obeuntque. Okay, I'll go back because I know that que is and. So I'll do it in a second. Arma is neuter. It could be nominative plural or accusative plural. Sua is going with it. Their own arms or weapons. Deponunt, they put down. So they put down their own arms or weapons. And obeunt, they leave. They go away from, literally. Aoire is to go, and ob is away. So they go away from, or they leave. Infines Etruscos. They leave into the Etruscan borders. So they're going back home. Sic Cincinnatus nostrum urpim servat. Thus, Cincinnatus saves, what does he save? Our city. Patres eum in urbim ducant. The fathers, remember these are the senators, him into the city lead. The fathers lead him into the city. Omnes cives, looks like we have a subject or direct object. Gaudent, subject. All the citizens rejoice. Et epulas faciunt. And they're making feast, right? We have this accusative ending. Sed mox domum redire. I see home and to return. Cincinnatus constituit. Cincinnatus, nominative. Cincinnatus decides, but Cincinnatus soon decides to return home. Togum deponit et. He puts down the toga, accusative, and remember that toga is a symbol of his power. It's a symbol of his citizenship. It's a symbol of him being a member of the political parties and being brought into the Senate. So he's putting that away. He's putting that power down. And in agro itrum laborat, and in the field again he works. So he's very humble, Cincinnatus, right? He doesn't want power. He just wants to help and save his country. When it's all over, he puts down the power, puts down the toga, very symbolic, and he works again in his field. Nam agrum suum colere amat, non esse dictator. For he loves to till or cultivate his field, his own field, not to be a dictator. Finis. Now it's time to do your reflections. Valete discipuli et discipuli.